Hello and welcome guys to our sixth session on responsive web design certification. Today we're gonna tackle the CSS Flexbox under responsive web design certifications. So let's get started. So a website user interface or UI has two components. First, there are the visual elements such as colors, fonts, and images. Second, there is the placement or positioning of those elements. In RWD, a UI layout must accommodate many different browsers and devices accessing the content. CSS3 introduced flexible boxes or Flexbox to create pages layouts for dynamic UI. It's a layout mode that arranges elements in a predictable way for different screen sizes and browsers. While somewhat new, all popular modern browsers support Flexbox. And these sections cover how to use Flexbox and the different layout options it offers. Use display flex to position two boxes. This section uses alternating challenges styles to show how to use CSS to position elements in a flexible way. First, a challenge will explain theory. Then a practical challenge using a simple tweet component will apply the Flexbox concept. Placing the CSS property display flex on an element allows you to use other flex properties to build a responsive page. So what are we going to do here? Add the CSS property display to box container and set its value to flex. So as you can see, the orange one floated here on the right side. Next, add flex superpowers to the tweet embed. To the right is the tweet embed that will be used as the practical example. So some of the elements would look better with a different layout. The last challenge demonstrated display flex. Here you'll add it to several components in the tweet embed to start adjusting their positioning. Add the CSS property display flex to the following items. Note that the selectors are already set up in the CSS. Okay, so many header. The header's proper name. Okay, let's do it one by one. Display flex the header. Let's copy this and then the header's profile name here. The header's follow button. The headers H3 and H4. Headers H3 and H4. And then the footer and the footer stats. Footer and the footer stats. So yeah, they become a single line. Let's try to run and then next. Use the FlexDirection property to make a row. So adding display flex to an element turns into a flex container. This makes it possible to align any children of the element into rows or columns. You do this by adding the flex direction. So let's jump into the challenge. Add the CSS property flex direction to the box container. Flex direction row reverse. So the orange will become into the the orange one will go to the left side, vice versa. CSS Flexbox apps. Apply the flex direction property to create rows in the tweet embed. So the header and footer in the tweet embed example have child items that could be arranged as rows using the flex direction property. This tells CSS to align the children horizontally. So add the CSS property FlexDirection to both header and footer and set the value to row. FlexDirection is row, and into the footer so as you can see, looks like nothing changed, but I think the FlexDirection default is row. If you set to flex, let's try to clarify if I'm right or wrong. FlexDirection default value. So yeah, I'm right. The default value is row. Next challenge. Use the FlexDirection property to make a column. So the last two challenges is the FlexDirection property set to row. This property can also create a column by vertically stacking the children of a flex container. Add the CSS property FlexDirection to the box container element and give it a value of column. So box container FlexDirection to column. So it's stacked up. Okay, apply the FlexDirection property to create a column in the tweet embed. So the tweet embed header and footer, use the FlexDirection property earlier with a row value here. And similarly, the items inside the profile name element here would work well stacked as column. So add the CSS property FlexDirection to headers profile name to column. So yeah. Okay, this is pretty long. Align elements using the justify content property. Sometimes the flex items within a flex container do not fill all the space in the container. It is common to want to tell CSS how to align and space out the flex items a certain way. Fortunately, the justify content property has several options to do this, but first there is some important terminology to understand before reviewing those options. Okay, here is a useful image. Okay, I'm just gonna take a screenshot so I won't forget the explanation. So yeah, here we go. Here's a useful image showing a row to illustrate the concept below. So the main size, cross start, main axis, cross axis, main start, main and cross size. Okay. I'm probably gonna remember this one. So recall that setting a flex container's row places the flex inside item side by side from left to right. A flex container set as column places the flex items in the vertical stack from where were we? Vertical stack from top to bottom. So for each the directions the flex items are arranged is called the main axis. This is a horizontal line that cuts through each item, and for a column, the main axis is a vertical line through the items. So there are several options for how to space the flex items along the line that is the main axis. One of the most commonly used is justify content center, which aligns all the flex items to the center inside the flex container. Other options include flex start, so blah 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 blah, flex end, space between and space around, space between and space evenly. So an example help shows this property and action. Add the CSS property justify content to the box container element and give it the value of center. So before we do this, we need to try all of this first. So let's start. Justify content is flex start. What would happen? Nothing. Flex end. Okay, the reverse order. Space between. Okay, let's comment out this. So space between aligns item to the center of the main axis with extra space placed between the items. The first and last items are pushed to the very edge. So this is the box 1, the Dodger blue, this box 1, box 2, and then this is just a background color of the box container. So the space between, okay, gets. And then the space around. Similar to space between, but the first and last items are not locked to the edges of the container. So the space is distributed around all the items with a half space on either end of the flex container. So half of this size is this size. Space evenly. Okay, they are now with the same spaces, just as this this synonym. So let's try to center now. Okay. Use the justify content property in the tweet embed. So the last challenge showed an example of the justify content property. For the tweet embed, this property can be applied to align the items with the profile name element. Add the CSS property justify content to the header's profile name element and set its value to any of the options from the last challenge. So where is the header's profile name here? And justify content would be center. How about space between? Space evenly. Looks like space evenly is better in my eyes. Okay, align elements using the align items property. So the align items property is similar to justify content. Recall that the justify content property align flex items along the main axis. Justify content property align flex items along the main axis. And for rows, the main axis is a horizontal line, and for columns it is a vertical line. Flex containers also have a cross axis, which is the opposite of the main axis. Here. For row, it tells CSS how to push the items in the entire row up or down within the container. And for a column, how to push all the items left or right within the container. The different values available for align items include, similar to what we've done earlier, so add an example helps show this property in action. So let's try to add align items to the box container. Align items. So before we set it to center, we have to try all of this first. So flex start will become this one. Flex end at the bottom of the page, at the bottom of the div, stretch, stretch will fit the whole element, and the baseline. Okay, I think it's the center of the, let's just read it. Baseline is a text concept. Think of it as the line that the letters sit on. Okay, so lastly, center. Run the tests. CSS Flexbox. Use the align items property and the tweet embed. The last challenge introduced the aligned items, so it's pretty similar in the justify content. So the follow button element. Let's try stretch. Nothing happened. Baseline. Let's try stretch again. I didn't see the follow button. Nothing happened. Baseline. Center. Okay, let's just try to add the center for now. I mean, it's in the instruction. Use the FlexWrap property to wrap a column or a row. CSS Flexbox has a feature to split a flex item into multiple rows or columns. By default, a flex container will fit all flex items together. For example, a row will all be on one line. So, however, using the FlexWrap property tells CSS to wrap items. This means extra items move into a new row or column. The breakpoint of where the wrapping happens depends on the size of the items and the size of the container. So, CSS also has options for the direction of the wrap. No wrap, this is the default setting and does not wrap items. Wrap will wrap items from left to right if they're in row, or top to bottom if they're in the column. Wrap reverse wraps items from right to left if they're in a row, or bottom to top if they're in a column. So the current layout has too many boxes for one row. Add the CSS property FlexWrap, the box container element, and give it a value of a wrap. FlexWrap. Let's try the other one. Wrap reverse. No wrap. Okay. So wrap items. So it went down because the width is 25% and 25 times 4 is 100. So if we're gonna change this to 100 divided by 6, what the 16.667. Okay, it would adjust based on the width given. So if I run this test, use the FlexShrink property to shrink items. So far, all of the properties in the challenge apply to the Flex container, the parent of the Flex items. However, there are several useful properties for the Flex items. So the first is the FlexShrink property. When it's used, it allows an item to shrink if the Flex container is too small. So items shrink when the width of the parent container is smaller than the combined widths of all Flex items within it. So the FlexShrink property takes numbers of values. The higher the number, the more it will shrink compared to the other items in the container. So for example, if one item has a FlexShrink value of 1 and the other has a flex shrink value of 3, the one with the value of 3 will shrink 3 times as much as the other. Add the CSS property flex shrink to both box 1 and box 2. Give box 1 a value of 1 and box 2 a value of 2. Okay. So I think this one will be opposite to the earlier challenge. So let's just try to add the flex grow 1 and flex grow 2. Yeah, the opposite of their earlier challenge. Use the FlexBase property to set the initial size of an item. The FlexBase property specifies the initial size of the item before CSS makes adjustment. With FlexShrink or FlexGrow, the units used by the FlexBase property are the same as other size properties. The value auto sizes items based on the content. So set the initial sizes of the box using FlexBase. Add FlexBase to 10M, and this one is 20M. How about 5? How about 40? 50, 60. Use the flex shorthand property. So there is a shortcut available to set several flex properties at once. The flex grow, flex shrink, and flex basis properties can all be set together by using the flex property. For example, flex 10 pixels. It looks like setting the padding and the margin. So for example, I'm gonna need to remember this one. I'm not familiar with this shorthand. There is a shortcut available. Okay, for example, flex 10px will set the items to flex grow 1 blah 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 blah. The default value property settings are flex 01 auto. Add the CSS property flex to both box 1 and box 2. One by one. Flex is, so the values is 2. Flex shrink is 2 and 150 pixels. And for the box 2, flex grow will be 150. These values will cause box 1 to grow to fill the extra space at twice the rate of box 2. Okay. Use the order property to rearrange items. The order property is used to tell CSS the order of how flex items appear in the flex container. By default, items will appear in the same order they come into source HTML. The property takes numbers as values and negative numbers can be used. Value of 2 and 1. Okay, I don't know what will be the use case of this one. It's like row reverse, but you can order it if this is more than 3 or 4. So yeah. use the align self property. So the final property flow for a flex item is align self. This property allows you to adjust each item's alignment individually instead of setting them all at once. This is useful since other common adjustment techniques using the CSS properties float, clear, and vertical aligns do not. Okay, so this is a new learning for me. Okay. Float, clear, and vertical align do not work on flex items. Align self accepts the same values as align items and will override any value set by the align items property. Add the CSS property align self to both box 1 and 2, center, and flex end. Align self center, and for this one, flex end. So at the bottom of the element. Okay, so we're done. Thank you for watching and see you in the next series. Bye-bye.